And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, roll, Atlantis.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside FD off. Bring in FD off. It's orange!
Orange 45! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage.
What do you think?
Put that in the big bag, Eagle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You good? Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Good evening. You are taking a live look right now at Space Launch Complex 40 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida, where SpaceX is getting ready to launch another batch of 29 Starlink V2 mini satellites. And I know I say this often, but this is not your ordinary Starlink, as we have the chance to set a new record tonight. But which record? We'll talk about that shortly. I am Sawyer Rosenstein. I will be your host for this evening's broadcast. And as always, I am not alone. Joining me tonight on commentary from the nice warm comfort of our homes here is Alex. How's it going, Alex?
I was gonna say, it's the record that is the coldest day of launch in Florida ever. Because I don't know, I've heard it's very, very cold out there.
No, there's another mission, I'm sure, that has that. We won't talk about that. But there's definitely some chill in the air tonight and braving the cold out in the field tonight. On commentary, we have Max Evans. Max, how are you?
Good evening, everybody. And yes, it is a rather chilly evening here in Florida. And when I say it's actually chilly, I mean it's actually chilly. The current temperature is 51 degrees Fahrenheit. Not sure what that translates to in Celsius. Probably in the neighborhood of 10 to
11.
12 or so. Yeah, here we go.
10 to 12,
Yes.
11.
Hey. Yes, it is a very cold, but rather clear night here. But the night is only going to get colder, and the winds are only going to continue to pick up. So, hoping to get Falcon 9 off the ground tonight.
Also, out in the cold tonight as well is D Wise, who will be providing views too from the field. So, yeah, it is it's a chilly one here, even where I am, which is south of the launch site, near West Palm Beach. That is, yeah, we're still expecting highs of around 46 Fahrenheit. And again, that's not counting the feels like temperature. Currently, the feels like temperature, by the way, at Kennedy Space Center and Cape Canaveral Space Force Station is about 4 degrees Celsius. So it is, yeah, this is going to be a chilly one. But we will talk about the weather shortly. In the meantime, Alex, if this launches tonight, we should have a new record for the number of launches from the Space Coast in a year. Do you mind talking about the mission and what record we'd be setting here?
Yeah, so, in some senses, it is kind of your ordinary Starlink, which is what you say, right? But there are at least two things. One is the record, which I'll talk about in a minute. But also, this is the second time in this season that we have a Group 6 mission. So to recap a little bit, maybe refresh some people's memories about what Group 6 missions are all about. Well, these carry Starlink V2 mini satellites into a 43-degree inclination orbit. Now, they could do these orbits, this 43 degrees inclination to northeast trajectories, just as usual. However, they reserve these for the winter months and fall months, precisely so that they can go south and have good weather. So here we have the hazard zones for today's mission, both for launch and landing/fairing splashdown, as well as, these are sort of the aerial hazard zones and marine zones, not Mars, no TAMS and all that. And when you put it all together, this is what you got. And so this means that, we're getting that return of southeasterly trajectories, which we had not seen for the entirety of the summer, because during the summer, the weather is quite quite worse. Let's put it that way. In that area compared to the northeast trajectory on the North Atlantic, and so that is where this launch is going to be headed to. And out there in the Atlantic is going to be just read the instructions, waiting for the landing of this booster. Now, also out there will be Bob, trying to fish the fairings out of the water. So if today's launch happens today, which I hope it does, because I said today's launch. If it actually launches, then we will also have another record, or rather, we will have a record, which is the most launches in a year out of the Space Coast. And by Space Coast, we mean both the Kennedy Space Center and the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. So you've got Mary Island and the Cape. Now, we had last week on a Starlink this record be matched, right? Because last year they had 93 launches out of the Space Coast between KSC and the Cape. But today's launch will be the 94th overall, so this launch is breaking that record. Instead of matching it, now we're also breaking it. We were hoping New Glenn was going to break that record, but unfortunately that did not happen. As you probably all saw, it had a scrub. So that is where we are right now. What we are hoping to see today, those 29 stunning V2 mini satellites heading into low Earth orbit, and hopefully a new record on the tally of many, many records that Falcon 9 has broken.
Yeah, well, we were thinking at first, oh, well, it'll be Atlas that ties the record and Starlink
yeah.
breaks it. Awesome. And then it's like, okay, I guess it's fitting that Starlink ended up tying the record, but at least Blue will break it. And I guess it's fitting that Starlink will now also set the record because Starlinks. Reminder, if you have questions, by the way, I see a bunch of you already doing that. If you can tag us at NASA Spaceflight or at NSF, we will do our best to answer as many of those questions as we can. And as we take a look here, as Carson, who is producing tonight, boy, I can speak, I promise, is showing there from our fleet camera at the port. You can see the booster in port with its legs actively being folded after returning from said Starlink mission. Which booster is on the right and which booster is on the left?
Oh boy, I have to actually check because I don't keep track of this mentally. That will be should be beaten 69 if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I'm looking here at the spreadsheet, and it
Nice.
should be the previous booster, which was beaten 69 after 28 flights. That's really impressive. So yeah, unless 69 is sort of like tucked in a corner out there, somewhere in the port, this should be that one.
There we go. Yes. So 1069 being folded up there at the port on the left. And of course, on the right, we have the booster for tonight's flight as well, which is one of the newer ones out there with B1096 with just a couple flights under its belt. Now, we can
Yeah.
see there the camera, by the way, shaking quite a bit. Max, in addition to the cold, it's quite windy out there. And I know that's one of the primary concerns for tonight.
It sure is. There is a current wind advisory out at the Kennedy Space Center and the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station at the moment for winds gusting up to 30 miles an hour, which honestly is about the limit for what we think Falcon 9 can handle under a reusable configuration, which of course tonight it is, albeit the drone ship or the booster is heading out to a drone ship in the ocean as opposed to coming back to LZ-1 or 2 for a return to launch site recovery. But currently, the liftoff winds are the only concern, and that makes sense because according to our Mark 1 eyeballs, there is not a singular cloud in the sky. It is nothing but just the most vibrant of stars that we have seen in quite a long time here, and that is one of the benefits of colder weather is that the skies tend to clear up and the atmospheric distortion is a lot lower than it otherwise would be. But the wind, yeah, as I said earlier, the wind is the primary concern, and that also remains one of the primary concerns for the upper level wind shear as well, as the chances of a violation there are low to moderate, and same with the booster recovery weather being of low to moderate concern. So not sure how this is going to progress as the window goes. The launch window continues up until 2:01 a.m. tomorrow morning. So it could be a long night. It could be a very quick night. We are hoping for the latter here. But I think the winds are going to continue up until about maybe 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, if not a little bit later. So best to get Falcon 9 off the ground as soon as they can, and we are hoping that the window opening in just under 50 minutes from now is going to be that one chance.
Yeah, I very much hope so. And again, as a reminder, with Falcon 9, once it begins fueling, they are committed to said T0. So hopefully they start the fueling and they go for it tonight. Although I will say, for the next 3 days, all of the upcoming forecasts essentially are greater than 95% chance of favorable for launch conditions. So that would be for if they needed to delay 24 hours for this, in addition to the current planned launch time for New Glenn, which as of now, Wednesday, the weather for that is also greater than 95% chance favorable. And speaking of New Glenn, there's a really good question here asking from New Glenn watching appropriately. Alex, how far downrange does Falcon 9 land compared to a New Glenn booster?
Yeah, so it's pretty much about the same distance. We saw Jacqueline going out there, and thanks to the multitude of tracking sites, it's a screenshot from Gavin's post on X the other day, because he's our boat guy, right? So he was tracking where Jacqueline was, formerly named Landing Platform Vessel 1. I think it's a very boring name. I prefer Jacqueline. But yeah, so it is LPV1. Come on, you could do better, Blue Origin. But yeah, it's true. So it's about 600 kilometers downrange out there in the Atlantic. The drone ship for Falcon 9, it's pretty much about the same distance for Starlink missions. At the very least for Starlink missions. Some other missions do land a little bit further downrange. Currently, the record for single stick Falcon 9 is closer to 690 kilometers, which I think it's like 430 miles or something like that. So yeah, for Falcon Heavy Center Course though, the record is way out there. For a successful landing that was on Arabsat 6A, that was about 1,000 kilometers downrange, and then you've got for the furthest distance attempted, I think it was around 1,500 kilometers out there on STP2 for the Falcon Heavy Center Core on that one. It was so fast that it just, yeah, it had a failure of the gimbal system on the center engine, and it couldn't land. It actually literally just jumped out.
Yeah, it's wild to think how far out those were. And as you pointed out, 6A was able to land, it just couldn't make the 1,000-kilometer trek back on top of the deck and stay in one piece as it did that. So, yeah, minor detail there. But yeah, it's also, as you pointed out, the names can be quite boring. But then again, technically, today it's landing on ASDS, the Autonomous Space
But
Drone Ship.
but that
So,
is
but
just
nobody,
what he. No, hang on, because that is the. So
go
the
ahead for the
actual
semantics.
name. No, because the actual name of this is Marmac 303. That is its name. ASDS is sort of like as if you were to call the transport director TE. It's just an acronym, right? Whereas the actual name, like the name, because otherwise there are three ASDS, whatever it's called, right? Like that is not its name. You know what I mean, right? Like there's Marmac 303 that's just read the instructions. Marmac 302 is a short for Gravitas, and then Marmac 304 is of course I Still Love You. Those are their names. Like the formal names is Marmac 302, 303, and 304 because they are just based off barges that were called like that. In the case of LPV1 though, that's made from scratch. So Blue Origin put that name themselves.
What does SpaceX call the drone ships generally as their official grouping?
But that is okay. Are we doing the
Answer
IFT
the
thing?
question. Answer the
Are we doing
question.
okay, integrated flight test, for example, is not IFT just because it's IFT. The same deal happens here. AESDS is just referring to autonomous or drone ship. It's a general
Which nobody
term.
calls it. Nobody calls it that.
Okay, but it's a general, but you see the distinction here that I'm trying to make?
Yes.
Or am I just the only dumb one that is seeing the distinction here?
Nope. No, not at all.
Okay, okay.
I hear it. I hear you, Alex. Like to me, Blue Origin's barge is Jacqueline. I never call it LPV
Exactly.
one, nor do I call just read the instructions or a shortfall of gravitas, Marmac 303 or Marmac 301 or 302, whatever they are. Like
Yeah,
it's just their names.
that's
So
exactly.
Jacqueline it's also a lot less of a mouthful to call than
That's for sure.
LPV one. Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
mean, we could also just
funny
call
enough,
we could call it Mama Jeff Bezos.
yeah,
Because
How about
Bezos' mother.
funny enough, like
eh.
I remember Elon back in the day, he was like, "Oh no, it's not a barge. It's more than a barge. It's a drone ship. It's an autonomous space." You know what I mean, right? But then now, Blue Origin is out of the sun and being like, "No, it's actually a barge. It's just a barge. It's our landing barge or whatever." Like they just call it barge and they don't care. Meanwhile, SpaceX in the day was like, "It's an autonomous spaceport drone ship." Whatever. It was
See,
funny.
without Jack here, we get into semantics. It's not about bagels. It's about boat names. There you go. And yes, the only
You
time I
land
ever
on a
really
bagel?
refer to them as Marmax is if I'm trying to look them up on the marine
Yeah.
tracker.
But can you land on a bagel though?
As long as you don't land in the hole.
You can do anything once, I think.
You can use it as landing deluge because just read the instructions has deluge for the landing.
Oh,
It is
jeez.
true. Which is there any reason why they haven't put that on shortfall gravitas yet?
No idea.
Oh, so we gotta love
I
SpaceX's
just
reasoning.
yeah, and there's also the fact that they modified so originally both just read the instructions and of course I still love you were square, and when they introduced a chauffeur of gravitas, the deck has more look at like a hexagon or octagon shape. I don't remember exactly which exact shape it is, whether one or the other, but it's got like a polygon shape that it's not a square. And then suddenly 1 year, like a couple of years ago, they modified of course I still love you to also look like a chauffeur of gravitas, but they did not do that with just read the instructions. So it's like, who knows what happened there?
Unless it's because on one of them they decided to, do what felt right, and the other they actually followed the instructions, and that's why.
I guess they
It's be-
love more the other because of course I still love you.
Yeah, I know those puns were a bit of a shortfall. Anyway,
Oh,
continuing
come on.
on.
Jeez.
I mentioned that because you see it as LPV1, I think, in the app on Next Spaceflight, and someone noticed on Next Spaceflight, by the way, Gabriel GG, that after this, the next two Starlink missions
Oh
are
boy.
scheduled at the exact same time on the exact same day this week. And wondering, Alex, is there any chance of that happening?
I will consider those dates just placeholders for now, unless they want to do an Armageddon scenario, right? Uh,
Bring back the
uh,
shuttle.
yeah, right. No, but really, with the whole situation, there's been this government shutdown that's been ongoing for a while. So the FAA issued an emergency order last Friday, not Friday, on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. And so starting today, there's this restriction to only launch during nighttime launches, which is why, by the way, today's launch is happening at this time of the day and not earlier, because a few days ago it was actually supposed to happen at 5 p.m. Eastern time, but it moved to 10 because the restriction goes from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Local time, and so that's why they moved it. That is also why these two launches are happening at 10:01 p.m. Right? So my guess is that they are right now placed there as placeholders. Like, keep it there. Maybe they also asked the range as well. Like, keep it there, please. We want to launch those days. We may change our window if this situation is reversed, and we'll see when that is reversed. Because I hope it gets reversed at some point. But you can see, you can also see. I mean, if you scroll up, Carson, you can see that the Atlas V is launching the day before at the very exact same time. You can see there. Well, not exact to the minute, but it's like 10 p.m. It also changed as well to be able to accommodate the launch of the Viasat 3 satellite on an Atlas V, which we'll also cover. The problem is that Escapade spacecraft does not. It's like, no, I really need the window. So it seems like they were able to get that exception from the FAA to at least get Escapade on Wednesday during daylight hours. But yeah, the rest they were able to adapt to nighttime hours.
Yeah, so they were able to at least change that. Expect that to very likely change, as Alex pointed out. But one thing that doesn't
Yeah.
change is the timeline of events here for Falcon 9 tonight. So as we hit 40 minutes to go until the currently scheduled T0, Max, do you mind walking us through what we can expect to see?
Absolutely. So we are not too far away now from the T-minus 38-minute poll, which is where the SpaceX launch director here at Hangar X will verify if the vehicle and ground systems are go for propellant load. Assuming they are go, prop load of the first stage, being the stage 1 RP1 and stage 1 LOX or liquid oxygen, as well as stage 2 RP1 will commence at T-minus 35 minutes. And we should be seeing frost at around... Usually, it's the T-minus 32 or 31-minute mark is when we first see frost indications. So, and that will continue up until about T-minus 20 minutes when we will notice the very ever-present T-minus 20-minute vent, which is where they begin to purge and thermally condition the lines in the transporter erector for stage 2 liquid oxygen loading, and that will commence or continue up until about T-minus 16 and a half minutes or so, and when that vent disappears, that is our visual indicator that they are underway for stage 2 LOX load. So that is what we can expect here, hopefully coming up in just a few minutes. And like Sawyer has said earlier, once they commence with prop load, they are then committed to that T0. They do not have the resources or the power, I believe, to recycle within the actual launch window, which goes until 2:01 a.m. tonight local time here on the east coast of Florida. So hopefully all goes well. I think it is safe to say for us in the field here tonight, at least. Gosh, it's so cold I can't even talk. That a launch at the opening of the window would be greatly appreciated. It's so cold I can't even talk. This is so bizarre.
Yeah, that's Florida for you. It's don't like the weather? Cool. Now we're going to make it freezing instead of just raining. And in fact, interestingly enough, it's not just rain that we have to worry about, especially once it gets cold. Max, I think there are a lot of people out there who don't realize that it can start raining something else from the sky here, or at least from the trees.
Yeah, we don't normally have that here in Central Florida. That is more of a South Florida thing where we have these big animals called iguanas, and essentially they're just very big lizards. And because they are reptiles, they are cold-blooded, and when it becomes very, very cold outside, so does their body temperature. And so when that happens, past a certain point, their bodies go kind of limp and they go into a sort of hibernation mode. And when that happens, they lose basically all control of their body and they literally fall from the trees. So it's quite a bizarre thing that there is a literal falling iguana warning once the temperatures get below a certain point, and that actually has been issued for tonight, and I think through the early morning hours of tomorrow. So not a huge issue for us here in Central Florida. Honestly, in my almost 4 years here now, I have yet to see one here, but that is mostly in South Florida, like around you, Sawyer, and south of you as well in the Everglades and the Keys. So, and Chris in the back channel is like, I'm making this up. No, I'm not. Falling lizard alerts are a real thing. You can look it up. So, yes.
It is legitimate. There's even a map that was on the local news by me that warned that this is falling lizard weather, falling iguana weather. So, especially down by me, I'm in the Palm Beach County area. It's a real thing. They are very large, and then they fall out of the tree and they appear like they are dead, but they are not. They are still alive. So, yeah, watch your step if you're down in South Florida when it gets this cold.
And they are quite dense animals too. So if you do end up getting hit by one, it's gonna hurt.
It sounds ridiculous, but it is very, very true. And I was talking with Max earlier. I'm like, I feel like we have to mention this in the broadcast just because people aren't going to believe that it's real.
Yeah, it happens maybe once or twice a year at the most because we don't really have any sort of I guess quote unquote normal winter here in Florida. It's maybe 3 to 4 weeks, sometimes 5 weeks of chilly weather, and chilly means anywhere from the range of maybe 45 degrees Fahrenheit on the low end to averaging in the mid 50s, and then after that it begins to climb back up into, I guess, more normal temperatures for us here in the springtime. But for it to get very cold this early is quite shocking. But that is just a byproduct of the cold front coming down from Canada, and we are unfortunately right in the path of it.
Yeah, thanks Canada for all the falling iguanas. But yeah, typically Carson pointing out they average around 4 kilos or 8.8 pounds in terms of their weight. So yeah, watch your head. The other thing that we can watch out for are some of the amazing levels of support coming in even before we went live. Patrick Morris becoming a Capcom member, Capcom and above, getting access to the NSF Discord. So you will get food chat, you will get all the different spaceflight chats, and of course access to the pre and post show for the Flame Trench. Austin Farley becoming a Padrat member. Isaac becoming a Padrat member. Shazbert coming in saying, "Sup, Alex, Sawyer, D, and Maximus." Haven't heard anyone call you Maximus outside of Discord.
I think it has happened a few times. That is actually the name I wish I had. I'm not going to say my full name on stream here, but I wish I had the name Maximus because that is very close. Or actually, that is the name of the main character of the movie Gladiator, which is very, very close to my heart and a top fiver of mine. So I wish it was Maximus. Maybe I will change it legally, but maybe in due course.
His real legal name is Maximum Aerodynamic Pressure on the vehicle, but we just shortened it to Max Q.
Or just Q, like James Bond.
Yes. Do you have some crazy gadgets, though?
Yeah, they're called cameras.
Ooh, there you go. Roseanne DeVasto coming in with a tip at tips.nasaspaceflight.com. Thank you for going the extra effort to help make sure that it goes directly to NSF. Saying even here on the Space Coast, it's going to be a long, cold winter of nighttime launches. Yes, it is. I mean, at least the daytime launches become a lot more tolerable, but once you get to the night launches and you start feeling like you're in the 50s and 40s, again, that may not sound terrible to a lot of people who are used to, oh, well, it gets to negative 20 or whatever. As someone who has been in negative 20 degree temperatures before when I was up in college, there is a strong difference because Florida still has the humidity. It is still wet here. It is a very cold because you also feel the wetness of it. So it like chills you down to your bones. And speaking of chill, we will be keeping an eye, of course, on the vehicle where hopefully we will start to see frost as those tanks get chilly, as propellant load will hopefully be underway. Right now, we're not zooming in too crazy much because I pointed out the wind is very strong and we'd prefer not to give everybody migraines. Roseanne DeVasto also coming in saying, "Boo hiss, please stop dissing Jack." We love it. We do it because it's love, okay? So, we love Jack here, and still do. It's just having fun. And Bideford saying, with a $25 super chat, saying, "I've seen it once back in 2001, and it was freaky. No thanks." It is a freaky sight, especially when you're just going through the ground and you look, and it's like, oh, iguana. Okay, cool. Now, moving along. But yeah, so of course, keeping an eye to see if we can see it frosty. And Max, the cold temperatures doesn't change the fact that we'll still be able to see frost on the vehicle, right?
Oh, I think I see it.
Yeah, I think at this point, it is worth pointing out that even though it is pretty cold for us here in Florida, again, it is currently about 50 degrees Fahrenheit. That is still very, very warm by comparison to the current temperatures of the super chilled RP1 and the cryogenic liquid oxygen that power Falcon 9's first and second stages. So there is quite the temperature differential there. I don't know exactly off the top of my head, but I think it's between 200 and 300 degrees Fahrenheit below zero. Those are the temperatures of the propellants on Falcon 9. And so 51 degrees Fahrenheit is quite warm by comparison. So we should still see a bit of frost forming on the outside of the vehicle. And also because it is very windy, there won't be much of an actually based on the direction of the wind here today, there might not be much ice buildup on this side of the rocket. We might have a more tricky time picking that up, both because of the temperature and the wind direction, because it's blowing the ice off of the tank. But that will make the T-minus 20-minute event all that much more visible because it'll be blowing it straight out to our current southeast. I think that is where the wind is blowing right now, but I can't tell from my feed right now because I'm keeping it kind of wide to avoid the crazy camera shake that we would otherwise get with these super high winds. But we should be actually, I'm trying to peek right now. I have the camera exposure set to where we might be able to see something, but I think I see some vapor, maybe some frost. Alex, do you think so?
Yeah, I actually saw it earlier, and yeah, you can see that, especially the condensation around the frost. It's a lot more visible because it sort of sticks out, right? And so it's a good contrast with the black of the night. Yeah,
That
so
definitely
you can.
looks frosty.
Yeah,
Which
it's almost like it's a little bit pregnant, I guess, the booster, because it sort of has this sort of curve on the side. I don't know.
I've never heard Falcon 9 described as pregnant, but
No, because
congratulations.
Oh, geez.
okay, hang on, because the idea is that you see like a bulge in the figure of the rocket, right? And so instead of being straight down, there's like a curve on the side from that condensation around. So it's sort of like it's got a tummy. I don't know.
Congratulations, it's a cold gas jet thruster.
Yeah, right. It's a rocket engine.
Yeah. It's 9 Merlins. Enjoy your nanotuplets.
Yeah.
I think that's the term.
And as for the temperatures, by the way, so the oxygen is roughly minus 200 degrees Celsius. That will be roughly minus 330 Fahrenheit. As for the kerosene, it's a bit closer to room temperature, but still colder because they try to still, put it in the tanks a bit colder. So it's denser, they can fit more of it. And that one is around minus 7 degrees Celsius, roughly 20 degrees Fahrenheit. So yeah, there you go.
Hey, and now I can't unsee that. Thank you. Also, to the person who said I raise you Great Lakes winters, yeah, Lake Erie, Lake Effect snow, right back at you. And yes, Chris Bergen in the back channel, I am indeed Sawyer flexing about cold temperatures. Oh boy. Here's a question from 98 Central asking, will this trajectory have the dogleg maneuver? And it's very rare that we actually get the Florida dogleg, typically only during one of my all-time favorite launch trajectories, right?
So it's technically not a dog leg. It just
Oh.
does a little bit of a curve. It tries to avoid a little bit of the Bahamas, but it's not entirely. If this were the 53-degree inclination shell, though, then yes, that one will sort of try to, like, 53-degree inclination shell that orbits. They go northeast, but they tried once going southeast, and because it's higher inclination, that means it goes a bit more south. And if you can imagine moving that trajectory more south, what happens? You're in the middle of the Bahamas, right? So that's what they did. The landed booster right on the Bahamas. Now they had, well before that, our original plan was to, okay, well, say we still need to land in good weather on the water, right? The booster needs good weather on the drone ship and everything. But we really, really need to launch these satellites to 53-degree inclinations. And we don't want to take the northeast trajectory. We don't have the approvals to land in the Bahamas, etc., right? What do? You have to go around the Bahamas. And so that was part of some of their documentation at the time to sort of do landings around, sort of curving around the Bahamas and doing those trajectories, essentially doing a dog leg around it. And but that means you spend a lot of propellant, a lot of that performance on the rocket gets just spent on doing that S curve thing. It's technically not an S. It's a dog leg, right? It's called like that because it sort of looks like that. Uh, but yeah, and so you're wasting propellant essentially. So you cannot carry as many satellites. So that's why they traditionally now what they do is they just wait for the summer, they go northeast, and case solved.
But what about the Southern Polar Launch Corridor?
Those are much better, but they have not done one of those in a while. So
Those have
we'll
a
see.
slight dogleg to them.
A much
Kind of.
much pronounced dog leg, yeah, because it
Yeah,
goes
exactly.
around Florida, yeah. Goes
Yeah, it just
straight
has to
south.
go around and not drop boosters on Fort Lauderdale and Miami. That's all. But yeah, that's what I was kind of alluding to, because that is still one of my all-time favorite trajectories is the Southern Polar Launch Corridor. It is It is unlike any other launch you will ever see out of the Cape. It's bizarre when you're used to going, a little east or southeast or northeast, and instead it goes over your head. I still remember the Frame 2 mission. Max, I'm sure you remember this too, when we were up on the mound and it just went over our heads to the buildings behind us rather than going downrange. It was weird. And you managed to keep the robot tracker, though, on it the whole time.
Yeah, that was the From 2 mission that launched earlier this year, and that is currently the one and only time that astronauts or people in general have actually launched on a polar trajectory. That was wild. Considering that also launched from LC-39A, the maneuver was all that much more pronounced because it literally took up our entire sky. I looked up after the entry burn was finished, and my camera was pointed almost 180 degrees in the opposite direction. I was focused on the monitor the whole time, so I wasn't really looking to see where the head was moving. But that's just how pronounced that maneuver is, especially when the booster comes back in that direction. So it is rather pronounced, and we get that maybe twice a year at the most, usually in either the very early springtime or late winter, or early winter and late fall. So that's normally the best time to launch that flight path. Although we have seen it otherwise, but from here in Florida, it is quite the rarity and all that much more special when it does happen. But I believe the first time we launched a polar trajectory here in Florida, at least with SpaceX, was back in 2020. Oh gosh, what mission was that? Was that the Oh
That was
gosh.
one of the transporters, wasn't it?
No, it was. Oh goodness gracious me! That was one of the first missions I saw in Florida. Oh, I should know this. Either
Falcon
way,
1B.
Salcom 1B. Thank
Yes.
you, Alex. That was the first polar trajectory we have had in Florida in about 50 years at that point, since the 60s. It was incredible. I watched that one from the pier over at Jetty Park, and it went straight over our heads and wowed everybody. It was incredible. But yeah, it does not happen very often, but when it does, it is quite the treat.
Yeah, that was before I was working at NSF. Ended up going down to a pier near where I lived in South Florida. And I was looking for it, normal spots, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, it's almost directly overhead. Holy smokes. So, yeah. But yeah, that Fram 2 launch, Max, we were next to each other for that. And yeah, both of us were like, oh my gosh, I was trying to turn
Yes.
around. I got stuck in the gravel. I couldn't turn.
Yeah, basically. So from our perspective in front of the hut, or the building we share with NBC here, it was basically, so we have the two buildings around there, and then you have the press building over there at the press site. It was behind the press site. We have never seen that before, at least from the actual press site perspective. So it was rather bizarre. I think the only word for it is bizarre, because I hadn't really seen that before, at least from KSC. And the fact that it was launching astronauts too was just it was a huge bonus. So yeah, you and I were up there, and we were just like, wow, did that really just happen? That is traveling so much farther south than we ever could have thought.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's why, we're glad everyone joins us for these, because each launch is just a little bit different. There's always something that makes each one of them unique. They all don't look the same. They all don't sound the same, which seems crazy when you say that, but each launch has its own unique characteristics. And now at this point, we're about 22 minutes away from the launch tonight. And for those who are confused with all the directions and everything, this one is the southeasterly trajectory tonight. So as we hit winter now, expect a majority of these, if not all of the Starlinks that we see, to go in that southeasterly trajectory, which selfishly I prefer, just because that's where I'm located. David, thank you for becoming a PadRat member. Todd Johnson gifting 10 Red Team memberships. If you got one of those gifted Red Team memberships, please make sure to give them a thank you. And Todd, thank you as well. And hopefully you guys enjoy all the perks that come with the YouTube membership, including some of those member photos that you'll see in the member section on the channel. For the first flight of New Glenn, we had the behind the scenes as well, where you could see all the different cameras and actually hear Kevin calling the shots for it. Hopefully we get to see that again for the next flight, but just a fun little treat for our members there, so thank you. And Turtle Sanctuary saying they found a family of seagulls living on top of the rocket assembly building at Starbase. Guess what they're calling them? Very funny. I would guess rocket bagels? I don't know. I'm sure there's a pun or something that I'm missing
I have
there.
no idea.
I like that though. Rocket bagels. No, go on. If you agree with me, that's funny. Vent rocket. How about that? See, it agrees with me. It's funny because that is the T minus 20 minute 20-second vent. Which Alex, what exactly is happening?
Well, they're chilling down the pipes. We're talking about before about the temperature, right, of the propellants and whatnot. I said -7 degrees Celsius for the kerosene, -200 degrees Celsius for the liquid oxygen. Well, I think there's at least one of those that's different than the other, and that is, of course, the liquid oxygen. And because it's so cold, anything on Earth, except I guess for the very cold labs that do millikelvin research or whatever, except for those, everything else on Earth is a lot warmer than that, right? And that includes, of course, Florida today, even though it's very chilly for humans, it is not for that liquid oxygen. So yeah, those lines, those umbilicals that go up to the second stage need to get ready and chill down ahead of liquid oxygen load on the second stage, which if you can see there on the timeline, we are about 3 minutes away from that. So it's a little bit of a quick process of chilling down the lines and whatnot, and then getting the propellant inside the second stage liquid oxygen tank. So yeah, that's where we are right now.
And of course, that is a good confirmation that fuel loading is continuing as planned and on time, and also a good indication of kind of how the winds are blowing in at least which direction. Although I'm sure you could tell just by the way the camera is shaking how that wind is doing, which for people just joining Max, how is the weather out there right now besides cold?
Cold.
Well,
No, it is as you were saying. Yeah, besides cold, it is very, very windy. There are currently wind advisories out here at the Kennedy Space Center and the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station for wind gusts up to 30 miles an hour or higher, which is subpar from what we can tell and from what we have seen before. Falcon 9 has about a 30-ish mile an hour wind tolerance for what it can take at a liftoff. So it's different when it reaches the upper level wind shear in the lower upper. I should say in the upper atmosphere. I should say. Good lord, I can't think. My brain is frozen. My mouth is frozen. It's so cold. But yeah, wind is certainly I think it is the only watch item for tonight on the forecast. So the skies are perfectly clear. We can see plenty of stars, and there is really nothing in the way except for this pesky wind. It is blowing pretty consistently, as you can see from the forecast here. The additional risk criteria concerns remain low to moderate for both the upper level wind shear and booster recovery weather. If we can get one of our HUT cameras on the flag here at the Kennedy Space Center, that will be the best visual indicator of how the wind is currently behaving. It is gusting pretty hard, as you can probably see from our cameras shaking like absolute crazy at times, and we are certainly feeling that here on the ground as well. We are absolutely frozen, but it is only going to get colder and windier from here up until about maybe 8 or 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. So fingers crossed that Falcon 9 can get off the ground now, but because they have begun prop load, they are now currently committed to 10:21 p.m. Local time here on the Space Coast. So it's either then or not at all tonight.
exactly. And they do send up weather balloons and things to check the wind conditions, especially in those upper level conditions. They also continue to monitor the weather out at the location for the drone ship where they will hopefully be landing. Which, Alex, for a reminder, which drone ship and what support vehicles do we have downrange?
Yeah, so for this launch, the booster will be landing on Just Read the Instructions. That'll be its third landing, actually, after having supported Kuiper Falcon 1 and IMAP. So that is going to be for the booster. Now, for the fairing halves, there's also support vessel Bob out there, which both sort of babysits the drone ship, but also goes out there and stays with the fairing halves. It sort of has this crane, picks those up from the water. And for this mission, we actually also know those fairing halves. For this mission, there is serial number 188, and that is the one that is closest to the TE, to the transport director. So it will be the one on the right-hand side of this view. And then the other half is serial number 155, which is flying for a 31st time. That fairing half is quite a veteran one. I mean, the other one is flying for a 23rd. Both fairing halves are very flight proven, unlike this booster, which is only flying for a third time. So really, really amazing that, both fairing halves combined, it's like 54 launches in between both. It's quite amazing.
It's wild. Normally, it's the booster that has the super high number. In this case, it is the fairings, but that's still not the highest number of flights for a fairing. That one, I believe, they still have the crown located on top of the fairing half for the one that has the record, right?
Yeah, that will be B1085. It's launch. Not B1085. Excuse me. I'm used to two boosters. Sorry. It is serial number 185 because for fairings is serial number. So fairing half serial number 185. That is an active half, which is the one that is sort of opposite of the transport director. Because yes, they are different depending on which side. And that one has flown 34 times so far. Wow, that wind.
I told
blowing
you.
quite hard.
Can confirm it is windy here, and that is not helping the wind chill, which the rocket doesn't care about wind chill, but Max and D very much do, and we care about them, so we care. But yeah, that's the wind conditions. And Max, it's worth noting, you said that there was a wind warning in effect or a wind watch, but that's not been an issue in the past. In fact, I believe as recent as NG-23, they had issued one of those warnings, and it's still launched in it.
Yeah, the actual advisory itself is not a showstopper. It's whatever data they are able to that they are able to pull closer to liftoff. That is the primary concern, whether that be from a weather balloon or from any sensors they have either on the towers or around the pad in some capacity. So the actual advisory itself is more of just a more of a blanket warning that winds could exceed X or Y miles an hour or knots. So currently they seem to be below a threshold that SpaceX is targeting. Oh, good golly, that wind is cold. Oof. But it is apparently not a showstopper tonight so far, because obviously SpaceX. What are you laughing at, Alex? What's so funny? Are you laughing at my
You
misery?
yelled at the wind. No, I'm not. I'm not laughing about your misery. I'm laughing at the reaction of it from yourself.
Gosh, it's
It was funny.
I mean, perhaps like maybe 49 degrees to most folks, especially up north, like is laughable. But here in Florida, with how much more humid the air is, and for how hard the wind is blowing right now, is it's pretty brutal. Cold here in Florida just hits it hits you way differently. I think that's probably the easiest way to put it. But yeah, obviously SpaceX believes that the wind is going to be not too much of a concern, at least enough to stop the show entirely, because obviously they are pushing along with the countdown now, and they are now committed to 1021 because prop load is underway. So we will see if the 9 Merlin's light or not. So they either will or they won't. We'll find out.
Indeed, we will find out. I'm telling you, Max, I know you need like a giant winter overcoat out there. For most people, back when I was in Syracuse at school, I would just wear a sweatshirt in this kind of weather. 40s, 50s. Oh, it's sweatshirt weather. And if you want to have your sweatshirt ready for sweatshirt weather, you can get yours at shop.nasaspaceflight.com. I know it's getting towards the cold winter times. We have plenty of the hoodies as well as the sweatshirts there. So we've got ones with the NSF logo. There's a lot with some of your other favorite prints, including all of the Starship patches and other ones like that. They actually are really warm and really comfy. I will say that. At least for me here in Florida, I sometimes overheat in them, which means for people that actually live in the cold, it's a really good time. And in fact, we have our newest design available also on one of the hoodies, and that is our 20-year tour t-shirt. So this is all the places that we've ever rolled out to bring you different kinds of productions and live streams and events. These are all the different spots we've been to. We went through a long list and had to count all of them and go, wait, we forgot one. Because it's surprisingly a lot that we've done in the last 20 years and places we've covered launches. So you could check out the Spaceflight Coverage World Tour shirt, also available as a poster, also available as the sweatshirt there. And of course, that cold means we are getting towards the season of gift giving. And if you're looking for an awesome gift to give, might I suggest the brand new puzzles that are now available in the shop as well. These are 1,000-piece puzzles. I just got one recently in the mail, and they are actually really nice. But as someone who's not normally into puzzles, it's taken me a little bit of time to work on it. But we've got some of the awesome prints, including one of the VAB. That's still one of my favorite shots. So you can put it together. It's great as a gift, and it is great as well if you just want to challenge yourself with a puzzle. These are available at shop.nasaspaceflight.com.
In that tour poster, I'm the one doing drums, by the way.
Ooh, who would be in the NSF band? Alex on drums.
Yeah.
I feel like EJ would take lead guitar. I could take rhythm guitar. Max, what instrument you play?
So I actually played the big double bass in both. I think it was I played the big double bass from 5th grade all the way through high school. So that was both in classical orchestra and also jazz. So I'd be happy to take the bass guitar. That sounds fun.
Ooh, there we go. We're starting to get ourselves a band here, and I don't know, we'll make Kevin sing. How about that? Anyway, continuing on here. Under 10 minutes to go now. No, Chris, as much as I love Billy Joel, I would not be great on piano because I do not play piano. I actually do play basic rhythm guitar. But in terms of what we still have left to go for tonight, Alex, what do we still have on the agenda in this countdown?
Well, we are approximately 9 minutes away from liftoff. And right now, they should be wrapping up RP1 load on the first stage. That should be in about 3 minutes from now. In 2 minutes, a little bit earlier than that step in the process, we'll have the start of engine chill on the 9 Merlin engines on the first stage. That is very similar to the process that they were doing earlier with the T-minus 20-minute vent, where they flow a little bit of that liquid oxygen through the pumps in order to cool them down and prepare them for operations once they light the engines for liftoff. Now, after those two steps, roughly at the T-minus 5-minute mark, they're going to be preparing for Stromback retract. First, they pressurize a bit the tanks, get them sort of stiff and ready for that process, then open the clamps at the top of the Stromback, and then it'll retract about 1.8 degrees. It takes about 2 minutes for the whole process, so it's going to go roughly until T-minus 3 minutes. Around that time, liquid oxygen will wrap up on the first stage, and then a minute later on the second stage. And we'll get there. When we get there, we'll talk about what happens after that once we're there. Tolkien, well muted.
Yeah, you're right. I am.
There we go.
Yep. So again, at this point, under 8 minutes to go now from this relatively new booster out on the pad, B1096, set to go on its third flight tonight on that southeastern trajectory. So that means that anyone who's located on the east coast of Florida has a really good chance of seeing it, but especially if you then go down to the southeast. So as you work way down to Indian River, Martin, Palm Beach counties, down towards Fort Lauderdale, down towards Miami, you'll be able to see it really well. And of course, we've gotten reports from viewers as well on the west coast of Florida who have also seen it in the Tampa, St. Pete area. If you do see it, send it to us on the socials. Take some photos, take some videos. I love seeing other people getting to experience the launch. It's one of my favorite things. So definitely, if you have that, send it to us on the socials. And speaking of send, I need to send Max off to get all of the cameras and everything ready to go for launch. But we'll catch up with you after liftoff, right?
Absolutely. Just have to make sure the cameras don't blow over before T0 here. So thank you very much, everybody, and I will see y'all on the other side.
Sounds good. Stay warm, because apparently it's cold out there.
No promises.
Oh boy, there we go. And as Max goes to chill with the cameras, as it is chilly out there, the engines are indeed chilling down now. The Merlin 1D engines, the 9 of them at the base of the rocket, getting prepared to deal with that thermal shock and try to make it less evil in terms of, potentially destroying the engines when doing so. That's usually a good thing, right, Alex?
Yeah, it's not great when you don't do that.
Shazbert coming in here, contributing towards a new goal that has appeared in the chat, saying, let's go, the Louisiana way, replay pun commentary. So yes, the new goal is that apparently I will do a replay of launch commentary using only puns throughout the entirety of the replay. So no pressure, but I've got some pun work to do here. Although if we don't hit it, then I don't have to worry about it, right? That's how that works. Please. Anyway, coming up now, about 5.5 minutes to go. Coming up on the strongback retract, about a minute or so from now, which is always a little tricky to see since they put up the crew access tower at 40. Used to be able to have a great view of the strongback, that sort of metallic gray structure up against the rocket currently. That is also known as the transporter erector because it will transport it out to the pad and then erect it vertical for launch. That will then lean back a whopping 1.8 degrees away from the rocket, give it a little bit of space, and then throw all the way back at liftoff. What's the point of doing the slight lean before the throwback, Alex?
Well, first of all, they need to open the top clamp at the top. That is the one that sort of holds the rocket as it goes up to the vertical position, right? Because Falcon 9 is integrated horizontally. But there's also a little bit of another purpose there, which is so there's two reasons actually. The first one is there are still connections to the rocket, right? There are still umbilicals on the intrastage, on the second stage, on the fairing, and so you cannot do the entire throwback well before the liftoff happens, right? But there's also a mechanism sort of at the bottom that needs to be sort of disengaged and get ready for that throwback, and that's sort of how you prime it, or sort of you get it in a good position by doing this that they're doing right now. They open the clamp at the top, then it sort of retracts a little bit, and as you can see, there are umbilicals. We may see it out. Dang it. They moved the camera to another
Of course,
one.
they cut away.
But there are umbilical connections, and the thing is, when they did the previous transport erector, it sort of moved away and it stayed there for liftoff. Now what they do is they only retract a little bit. Oh, there we go. And what happens is that because it only retracts a little bit, the lines are shorter. They don't need to be as long because you don't need to reach the rocket all the way from the retracted position. Because again, it still has umbilicals there. You can see one at the fairing position there. There are also another one for the second stage, and also another one for the intrastage. So if you have that really, really long umbilical and the rocket lifts off, what's going to happen? Well, it's going to be more prone to get damaged by the engines, right? So that's not good. And so they changed to this new method. Well, new. I mean, it's been in place for like 500 launches, but it is not the old method of just retracting a little bit and then at liftoff all the way out. It's a lot easier for refurbishment.
Stage
Exactly.
1, LOX load complete.
Nice.
And there you go. You can hear the liquid oxygen load on stage 1 complete there. So stage 1 and stage 2 both loading with liquid oxygen as the oxidizer, as well as the RP1, rocket propellant 1, for the propellant that is a refined form of kerosene inside the vehicles. Again, that propellant loading has been going on for about 35 minutes total. And in terms of the actual propellants on stage 2, the liquid oxygen load began at about 16 minutes to go until launch. At this point now, we are about 2 minutes to go until launch. And what can we expect for these last 2 minutes here, Alex?
Yeah, we should hear next that liquid oxygen load wrapping up on the second stage. And then they'll begin all of the sort of pushbacks and whatnot. We're going to see the return of the strongback vent. We'll
Stage
hear
2,
the call out.
LOX load complete.
Well, there you go. That's the stage 2 liquid oxygen load complete. So we'll see that vent coming back on the strongback. And we'll also hear the gas closeouts call out, which has to do with depressurizing a lot of the systems there on the strongback. We'll also have a T-1 minute, the call for Falcon 9 in startup. That is when the rocket takes control of the countdown. And we're going to get, hopefully, we'll see if the weather cooperates. Those are the gas closeouts call out. And so at T-minus 45 seconds or so, we're going to get that go for launch. So crossing our fingers, please.
That is
Let's
what we're
launch.
hoping to hear, yes. And again, you could see the vent finishing up there, purging all the lines, taking care of all the pressurization. So now, next up will be Falcon 9 entering startup. And we should be hearing that call shortly.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
There we go. The onboard computers now have control of the count. The tanks are pressurizing to their final flight levels. You can hear the wind, so fingers crossed that we get the go for launch in just a couple of seconds here.
Launch director, go for launch.
There we go. Despite the windiness, it is not, apparently it is within limits, so they are going to continue on ahead with the count. About 30 seconds to go now before launch. We will, of course, be quiet and let you listen to the rocket. Once it does lift off, it does take some time for the sound to get to our microphones here, so there will be a little bit of a silence before it does reach us. But now, 15 seconds away from launch. Next up will be the activation of the Rainbirds, a sort of water deluge system. That will be followed a couple of seconds later by those 9 Merlin 1D engines igniting. So there's the Rainbirds. We have ignition and liftoff of Falcon 9 Starlink 6-87, setting the record for the most ever launches in a year from Florida. Even with the wind, you could still hear the rumble of the engines. Falcon 9 now passing through max Q, maximum aerodynamic pressure pushing down against the vehicle right now. Everything looks good up to this point, 90 seconds into flight. Even with the wind, you still hear that really good sound. And now we get the great views as we get into the thinner parts of the atmosphere. And as we do so, the air gets thinner, and as a result, the plume will start to spread out more. So you'll really be able to see those 9 engines each firing. And then also, as it gets higher and the oxygen amount gets lower, you'll start to see a much more blue flame coming out of the rocket. Coming up in about 20 seconds or so, we'll have 3 events in rapid succession, starting off with MECO, main engine cutoff, which will be the shutdown of those 9 Merlin 1D engines. That is going to be followed by the separation of the first and second stages, and then finally the ignition of the single Merlin vacuum engine on stage 2, known as SES-1 or Second Engine Start 1. And there's the blue. Well, it's SpaceX, not blue, but there's the blue color. Next up should be MECO, and there we go. That'll be followed by those stage separating. And this continuing to be our own ground track here, and you can see ignition of the Merlin vacuum engine. And you can see a little bit of stage 1 with those coal gas jet thrusters in the plume behind it. Here's what it looked like from the SpaceX view on board. So far, so good. And now stage 2. Oh, very roasty toasty, continuing on its way. Another thing that might get roasted in a couple seconds are those 2 fairing halves, which we might be able to see fall away inside that plume. In fact, I believe that was it right there. It must have been, because here comes the replay from the SpaceX feed, which is a couple seconds behind our cameras.
23 and 31 flights already done for those fairing halves.
And those will be recovered downrange, which for those just joining, Alex, by the way, which are the recovery vessels downrange for the fairings and for the booster?
Yeah, so those fairings are going to be recovered by fairing recovery vessel Bob, and the booster will be landing on Just Read the Instructions, hopefully in 5 minutes from now.
That's what we're hoping for. Again, you can see that plume expanding as it really gets into the thin parts, the edge of the atmosphere there. Absolutely gorgeous view. Again, this from our own cameras on the ground. I love how you could see just the little pulses through it. Absolutely spectacular. And again, this engine burning, it's called Kerolox. So RP1, which is a type of kerosene, and the oxidizer is the liquid oxygen. Now, meanwhile, that first stage is still on its way uphill just a little bit as it reaches the highest point in its trajectory, which I believe it's actually just about to hit momentarily.
Yep, for whatever reason, call me crazy, I think might have some reasoning, but it reaches apogee around 4 minutes and 20 seconds into the mission. You can see now the speed picking up now, meaning it is coming back down. So yeah, Falcon 9 hits its high at 420, I guess.
Very appropriate with SpaceX. But yes, that's
course.
why I had a feeling that was about to happen. And as you pointed out, as soon as that speed stops, that is exactly when you know it's at the highest point. Because then the speed will pick up again, the altitude will drop. But meanwhile, it will still have 2 burns to do before landing. One of them, of course, being the entry burn, where it will fire up starting with a single engine. Then it will go up to 3 engines and then back down to 1. And that will help fight fire with fire and slow itself down as it gets into the thicker parts of the atmosphere, basically using its own plume and flames to act as a sort of heat shield, enveloping the vehicle and protecting it from those thicker forces as it goes lower in the atmosphere. And then, of course, there is the landing burn itself, which is a single engine burn that will hopefully see it landing on the drone ship downrange. The landing legs will deploy, and we're hoping for that soft touchdown shortly thereafter.
Yep, those engines, when they light up, the exhaust is going nearly 3,000 meters per second, which I wouldn't be able to put in kilometers per hour, but it is close to roughly 10,000 kilometers per hour. That's a lot faster than the rocket itself. So it can push out the atmosphere. It sort of can have this sort of pressure against the atmosphere, and sort of it acts as its own heat shield. But it also decelerates, yeah. So, ooh, is that from the ground, that entry burn?
That is absolutely the entry burn is captured from our ground cameras here. That is from
Nice.
DY's on their catch there and Max Evans both, it looks like. And there we go. It's about a 20-second-ish burn. And there we go. That looks like a good entry burn. And this is what it looked like, by the way, from the SpaceX cameras. Again, you can see those 3 engines dropping back down to 1 and then off. And there we go. Absolutely beautiful. So next up, you'll see the plasma going through those grid fins. Again, getting to the thicker part of the atmosphere, and about time for those grid fins to actually do their job and start steering the vehicle through that more dense atmosphere. And
Yep.
also keep an eye out. Usually it's in the left part of the grid fin. There will be a light that starts to appear, and that is usually its landing target.
I think I can start to see it.
Ah, yes, I'm starting to see it too. There we go. Again, it's one of those, you see this enough times, you know where to look, but you'll see it pop up there very shortly. It'll be a lot easier to see once that single engine relights for that landing burn, hopefully setting down softly atop of just read the instructions shortly thereafter.
And watch out for the deluge. Just read the instructions. Has a deluge system, so we'll see that as well. Normally, it leads to more vapor at landing, so it's probably going to be a very showy landing. But don't fret.
There we go. Yes. Nothing to worry about with that. As long as it's upright when the smoke clears, that's what we care about. Now 4 kilometers off the deck, under 1,000 kilometers an hour. So we should be coming up momentarily on that landing burn startup. We see it on the graphic. Now we see it on the video. And then we should be seeing the deck of just read the instructions momentarily. 1 kilometer up. Waiting for it to punch through those clouds. There's the deck on the right.
With the water and all.
There's the plume that Alex was talking about. And touchdown. There is the booster on the deck of the drone ship. That marks its 3rd launch and 3rd landing for this particular booster, a youngin' in the fleet. Meanwhile, the 2nd stage continuing its burn for just a couple more seconds here. And it looks like, trajectory-wise, based on those numbers and altitude, that looks like nominal orbital insertion. And there we go, DOS's favorite view, an empty launch pad at the end of the day there. Everything looking beautiful with that. We, of course, are pulling the replays, and we'll get those up very shortly for everybody. Ooh, that was beautiful. Max, I know it was a windy one, but how was that one for you?
I will first and foremost say I'm glad that it's over with because my hands are borderline numb and that wind is really brutal. I know I sound I sound like an absolutely broken record, but the weather here is really subpar tonight. But beautiful, and you could really tell how strong the wind was because it is currently coming from our backs and blowing more towards like 40 than anywhere else right now. And normally the wind will either suppress or enhance the sound depending on how fast it's moving and what direction it's moving. And because of it coming from our backs tonight and blowing towards like 40, it sounded really muffled and suppressed. It was really unique. I've only heard that maybe 2 or 3 times before, but that is just how strong the wind is here tonight as we see replay from, I think, Fleet 1, Carson? Fleet
Yeah, that's
1?
Fleet 1.
Fleet 1, there we go. In the artificial sunrise coming up over the Port Canaveral cranes there, which are also used to help service the boosters coming off the drone ships. But also, I was a little wigged out there for a second because on my track, I saw the booster begin tilting to the left, which would normally indicate it's heading off on a northeast trajectory. But I'm like, wait, is it heading off that way? And we just got that wrong? No, that was just a severe wind correction for what the wind is doing. And I was just looking at my streak shot that I got, which I may or may not post because the lens is very dirty. But that was a rather severe correction that Falcon 9 had to perform because of the wind tonight. It moved off to the left and then came back over to the right before it arched over on itself. It was really bizarre. I can't really say I've actually seen that before, or at least in a very long time. But again, that really just shows you how strong the wind is here tonight. So it's a rather unique evening here, and Falcon 9 was certainly putting in work. That's for sure.
Exactly. The gimbal or the steering on those engines really proving their worth tonight. And Alex, of those 9 engines, how many of them gimbal?
All 9.
Exactly. It needs it for a wind like this tonight. Now, let's see. Potentially, we can see it from one of our replays. Carson pointing out. Let's see. So this one. Ooh, it does start to go left. And then it starts correcting there. Very interesting.
Yeah, you should definitely see it on my track where it begins gimbling and tilting off to the left, which is what kind of psyched me out at first. I was like, wait, did we get this wrong? But no, that was all just a correction for the wind, which is blowing anywhere from 25 to 30 miles an hour at times, if not higher.
Wow. That's spectacular. And I see people saying that they took video or pictures. Please send it to us on the socials at NASA Spaceflight on most of your favorite social platforms, Facebook, Instagram, X. Definitely want to see them.
Yeah, if we take this clip or the clip prior and speed it up and then sort of like A/B it or zoom through it super fast back and forth, we should see it move off to the left and then right. It's a really unique gimbling feature.
Exactly. And you can see it here in the thicker parts of the atmosphere there. Of course, they do watch for upper level winds as well. But yeah, it seemed to obviously be able to compensate for it and be okay with it. Also, they wouldn't have launched it if they didn't feel confident in the vehicle's ability. And Alex, that has changed over time too. As they fly the vehicle, over 500 times, I feel like they start to learn things about it and learn its tolerances, sometimes the hard way.
Yeah, it depends, right? Sometimes, obviously, you don't want to push it if you're carrying a very expensive payload, but when it's Starlink, you may just try, right? Although I should say some of these limits as well, they are part of the range's own assessment, right? So, and what the range says, they have to follow through. It's not like Starbase, right? Starbase, it is their own range. They can do whatever, but at the Cape and also on the West Coast as well, those are federal ranges, right, from the military. So they really need to follow the rules. Otherwise, it wouldn't be great.
Yep, and here is one of those tracks here. We should be able to hear it as it launches as well.
And there it begins tilting left there, and then this is where I got a bit psyched out. But here comes some sound here shortly.
Sound, of course, a little quieter than usual on this one, as you were pointing out. You still get the crackle, but not always the rumble, huh?
I would say it was actually the opposite. There was
Really?
more rumble than there was crackle. Yeah, there really wasn't any feeling on that at all. It was more of a distant thunder the whole time, which is what made it so unique.
Very interesting, yeah. And as we pointed out at liftoff again, this setting the record for the most number of launches in a year from the Space Coast. And worth pointing out also the fact that, it's still the 10th of November. So there's still over a month and a half to go left in the year. And the record's already been broken, and there's still other launch providers going too. This week alone, we have Atlas and we have New Glenn also scheduled, in addition to the remainder of the Falcon 9s. And we didn't even have a Falcon Heavy this year, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, we had that graphic. I sort of tried to solve it. I put like an 8 over the number of launches because we had originally 87 Falcon 9s. Now we have 88. And well, this is now 89 Falcon 9 launches. So I guess I'll have to edit the edit. It's just like a Sharpie sort of thing. So yeah, it's a record right now. We'll see if we have any Falcon Heavies next year. Right now, I think we should see one hopefully in first quarter. There's at least a candidate payload, even though it's not being announced, but we are suspicious of a certain payload out there, which may or may not be the sibling of a certain other payload that should be launching this week. So we'll see when that happens.
Very, very vague. I love it. But yes, this was the 94th launch this year from Florida's Space Coast, as opposed to the 93 that we saw from last year. So, in case you're wondering the numbers there, that marks 89 Falcon 9s, 3 Atlas 5s. Again, this is as of right now. 1 Vulcan and 1 New Glenn. Hopefully, this week, we will see that number grow by even potentially 4 more launches, with 2 more Starlink scheduled, an Atlas and a New Glenn.
Yep.
Really quickly, I want to thank Barbara getting an item from the shop saying, "Thank you, mods, for all you do. I'm a SpaceX newbie, but a grid-fin Irish lassie." I love it. There you go. You can see it in the top right. Getting that Falcon Heavy long sleeve. Very nice. Max, I'm sure you could use 20,000 long sleeves to get warm, so how are you holding up out there in the cold?
I could use a lot more layers. I could use some hand warmers. I could use a beanie. I could use a whole bunch of things. Or it could just stop being so windy and cold. How about that? Yeah, it is certainly a cold one out here tonight, as we have said numerous times already, which everyone is probably getting annoyed with hearing. But again, it is a rather unique night in that Falcon 9 had to launch in very cold and very windy conditions here tonight. More so on the windy side. I think Carson was going back and forth there on that last replay to try and show some kind of left to right motion there on Falcon 9 in the first stage of flight, because again, we saw it kind of tilt over to the left to correct for being blown over from the wind. So that was a rather aggressive correction there. But of course, Falcon 9 took it like a champ, and it went downrange just fine.
I believe this is that replay one more time with the sort of back and forth. So let's see, left, right.
Yeah, you would see it first go off to the right as it was being blown to the right, and then it would gimbal the engine so that it could continue going back left to correct for it. Probably used a bit of the fuel margin there, but that is why SpaceX has fuel margins, and that is why they were able to bring the booster back on the drone ship tonight. And it would kind of have to suck to lose a booster after only its third flight. Falcon 9s are rather expensive boosters to replace, and they certainly want to get as much flight cadence and data out of them as they possibly can. So, but thankfully, everything went well tonight.
That is what we absolutely love to see here. A beautiful launch. And of course, we have so many more launches coming up this week. Make sure you go to the channel and hit remind me for all of those upcoming launches. We pointed out at least 4 more that we're hoping to see this week. Alex, I have a feeling you and I are going to be on a lot of those together. So, Alex, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, the next one will be the Escapade launch. Will go live roughly 3 hours before the opening of the window. That window opening at 2:50 p.m. Eastern. So I hope you all tune into that. I may do a thing. Because a lot of people were wondering how New Glenn will get Escapade out there to Mars. It's not. It's Escapade itself doing the whole thing. But I'll explain how that works, and of course, we'll cover that in detail this Wednesday.
Yeah, I can already hear Max screaming, Alex, shorten your answer. I'm cold. Max, thanks for joining.
Pleasure as always, everyone, and thank you very much for coming out tonight, and also for tolerating me whining about the wind and cold so much. I know I sounded like a broken record, but it is greatly appreciated for y'all to come out and keep watching us. It really means a lot. So stay tuned, and we will see y'all again very soon for the launch of New Glenn.
Get some warm drinks.
Yes, D
please.
is also freezing out there. We will see D's slow-mo as we sign off tonight. So stick around for a couple minutes longer. You'll want to see that. Carson pushing the buttons, pulling the levers tonight. Thank you very much for doing that. I'm Sawyer Rosenstein. I have been your host for this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you on the next one. And now, slow-mo time.
And here we go.
We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, roll, planet.
Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside FD off. Bring in FD off. Off. It's orange! 145!
Oh my God!
Decollage. Put that in the big bag, Jingle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
The methane will be igniting in the flare.